do, let me just give you a quick overview of what we're going to be seeing today. It's going to be a mixture. We're going to do some slides, but mostly focusing on actually going live with some of the modules and some of the applications. So there's going to be a mix of slides, demo, and hopefully folks will have a lot of questions, and hopefully we can answer them for you during the presentation. But if not, certainly feel free to ask. If you look at the 100,000-foot level, there are a few things we've done with Compleo 6.5. The architecture actually is a version 6.0, but I think it's very, very relevant because I think what we're looking at is the ability to be more of an enterprise solution. Frankly, in some respects, our customers are forcing us into that. We're finding more and more that Compleo is being used in very mission-critical solutions. And the good news is we're very, very stable. But unfortunately, sometimes other things happen within the environment that affect Compleo. So we were doing all the things we can to be as resilient as possible. Although we're very reliable, resiliency is certainly something we're looking at. And therefore, we've enhanced the management and monitoring function, while also responding to the need. Those of us who try to get a hold of you people in IT on the phone know for a fact that you're often not at your desks. So giving you the mobile capabilities to manage and view things in Compleo is certainly important. User upgrades in the interface, more powerful tools for compliance, obviously compatibility with the latest Microsoft suite 2016, as well as a tighter integration with some of the ERP applications. So that's the broad view. A look at the architecture shows probably the primary change in that realm is the fact that you can now configure everything in a database. Our multi-location customers have been very, very happy with this. It's a much easier interface for multi-locations. But even single-location customers have found that for backup and recovery, for switching from test to production system, this architecture certainly is better, as well as for load balancing. So it's something that a lot of people have been taking advantage because this is a version 6.0 product, and we've gotten some great feedback in terms of how this architecture is working out for them, just making it a more of an enterprise class system. I think some of the biggest changes in 6.5 have come in Supervisor because it is becoming more mission critical. One of the things that we found is valuable is to not only just have the ability to back it up, but have a full failover. So we have a failover capability. So you run supervisors, 2 supervisors, one is a failover. Something happens, the server goes down, it loses power, you can failover immediately to the second supervisor. The other thing we find is more and more of our customers are doing large numbers of jobs and some very large jobs. We want to be able to process now, and we can process now as an option in parallel. We can take the jobs in at once and start processing and formatting them in parallel, and then at your option, and we can get a little bit more into when we get into the live version, how easy it is to choose to either do it in the order of things usually come out, or first done, first out. That becomes one of your options, but allows you to do more jobs in a compressed amount of time. Error handling. Again, one of the issues that comes up frequently is Compleo's ready, Compleo's working, Supervisor's doing the handoff, it's going to your communications, whether it's an email server or whatever, SMTP, and there's an error in communications. What we've done now is we've allowed Supervisor to say, okay, communication failure, port conflict, we will retry, and we will continue to retry. We will get it done. So you don't come in the morning and find that there was an error. It will get done on its own, provided we can you can figure out how to get your email server back up and running. More secure remote access, and that becomes even more important because Supervisor plus a number of the other applications with our web console are now going to be able to be accessed by mobile devices, and it's the whole range of mobile devices, whether you're an Android person, an Apple person, whether you're on a phone, on a tablet, it is device aware, and it will configure it so it's viewable on the appropriate device. And now we will go into doing the show and tell. If you looked at the things we talked about, I've always heard that good software significantly improves a business process, but the best software does it without creating an onerous burden on those few people who have to administer it. So let's take a look, and let's talk about how some of the things we discussed. One of them was how quickly and easily can I set up supervisor, a pair of supervisors to have full failover. Process tab, machine settings, one click, check the box, identify the machine that you want to be working as fit for failover, test the connection, and you're good to go. That's one click, enter a machine name, test, and hit OK. Now, because this is our demo site and people hate when I change things, I'm going to cancel out of it, but that's all you need to do. We also talked about some of the other things. We talked about parallel processing. We could take a folder, right-click, edit folder supervision. This folder is already allowing parallel processing. So at the same time, one click, and we can make sure it's in the order that it came in. Again, that's an option. They're both options. A quick click, and you can set it the way you need it to be set. Back to the process tabs, we talked about remote access. Again, let's take a look at the machine settings. We could have everybody who can access the machine, who's got permissions already to access supervisor, access the machine, they can access it. But if we don't want that, if we want to limit the people who could have remote access, it's a simple click and a drop-down menu. Select the person that you want, hit OK, and now I could really upset the folks that I'd work with by keeping it so I'm the only one that has remote access, but I'm a good citizen, so I'm not going to do that, so we'll put it back on everybody has access. And once again, that's as simple as it is, but it's powerful. It allows you to have those people who you want to have remote access, and only those people be able to access from their own devices. And that's that bring your own devices is both good and bad for IT. People struggle with it, people love it, but it's something we need to keep control of, and we want to make sure that you have that ability to control it. So, went through a couple of those things, but now we also want to take a look at the web access. Here it is. As you can see, it's browser-based. It's in a browser. It's not going to be a full version of Supervisor, but it's the things you need to do. You're out on the floor, you're out at a remote site, you want to do some checking, you want to make sure it's still running, you can restart it, you can stop it if you want, you can do a number of different things, you can take a look at some of the administrative functions. Now again, unfortunately, this is a demo site, but we can start picking any one of these and say which ones do we want to monitor. I know that we've got a number of them in here. We can drop in on a couple of our technical people, but I think that would be rude. But suffice it to say, you have sufficient control to make sure everything's up and running. It's actually monitoring the supervisor and allows you to do a lot of the things that you'd have to get back to your desk to do. Again, all mobile on any device that you want, and it does fit the device that you have. One of the other things that we've done, probably our workhorse product is Explorer. I find that probably if there was one product that almost every one of our Compleo customers have, it is Explorer. We've decided, we've gotten a bunch of feedback. If you also have layout or you also have some of the other products, we got the feedback that people prefer that ribbon in terms of commands. It's more intuitive. So we've taken Compleo, our workhorse product, and made it a little bit easier customer interface for it. We also made it, one of the other questions we had was, how can I browse spools without having to close it, without having to minimize windows? You can now do that. You can go to the navigator pane and you can browse multiple spools. And again, just making the user interface, the people who are actually building the templates, a little bit easier, a little bit faster, making that process a little bit more streamlined. Now this happens to be, I have to admit, one of my favorite components, not brand new in version 6, but certainly improved in version 6. It's Compleo Archivor. As the name implies, one of its strongest characteristics is it can be an archive, a place to put all your Compleo documents and search by multiple different index fields. But it's much more than that. One of the things that we find that our customers have really liked about it is when they're distributing the documents. Probably the number 3 complaint, maybe the number 4 complaint I hear from IT, usually number 1 is I've got to keep things up and running and secure. Number 2 is I've got to keep things backed up. Sorry, we don't do a whole lot in that respect. But number 3 is I've got to keep my Exchange server or my email server. I've got to keep it unburdened. I've got to keep it clean. I've got to keep it up and running in a reasonable fashion, or my people just are not happy at all. One of the issues we find is that people running Compleo are now taking these things and adding them as attachments to email. Great idea, but there is a better way, and that's where Archivor comes in. By just creating links in an archive, you do 2 things. One, you take what could be several megabits of file, and instead of sending it out multiple times, burdening your email server, you send out a link to that file. So on the outgoing side, you've all of a sudden reduced the pressure on your email server. On the incoming side, you also have an audit trail. You have the ability to see who's used it, who's viewed it, when they viewed it, how many times they've viewed it. Now, having said that, let's go back to the demo side, and let's do a couple things. Let's take a look at something that should be familiar with most of you. You may have it covered with some sort of GUI interface, but it's a typical green screen you're going to find on your iSeries or AS400 for those of us who are elderly. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take 3 different files, release them, and then show you under the covers what's happening with them. Let's take a look at them so you have an idea what they look like in their raw form. Typical spool file, green screen. In this case, it's 5 invoices, all part of one file. And what we can do is take a look at a couple of them. Let's release this one and get this one going. Let's go up. Got to go up one on this one. This is something that's a little bit different. Oh, now this file has multiple invoices in it. And what we're going to do with this file, the first file, we're going to split all those invoices up and send them directly to the customers. So it's going to be five invoices split into 5 emails, and each one going to the customer. And a link for each one of those will be given to the customer, and they'll be able to track it. And we'll show you that in a second. But let's release this one because this is something a little bit different. We're going to take these, and this would be an internal person. You may want to have an accounts payable person take a look at all the invoices and review them. Great. Rather than sending them 41 different emails, they'll all be grouped together. They'll get a single link, and it'll take them right to Archivor where they can view them. And this third one, similarly, it's one invoice, and this is the traditional one. I just want to show you what people are, most people are doing without Archivor, which is basically attaching the file. So while these things are going on, I also want to show you what's happening under the covers. First, let's go back to Supervisor. You'll see the files have been processed. If we take a look at any one of the files, you'll see all the steps that are going on. We're processing the file, we're looking at the spool file, we're formatting it, we're sending it through our templates, and we're emailing it out. In this case, it's an attachment. In some other cases, as a link. If we go to Layout, we can take a look at that spool file and now apply the template that's doing all the configuration. And once we do that and go to the final view, you can see it's all formatted. But what I really want to show you here is the run mode. As I said before, doing good things, improving processes significantly is great. But if the task is so difficult and so time-consuming that it takes away all the streamlining, it's defeated its own purpose. So now, to send it to Archivor, we just double-click on this. All we've had to do is identify where Archivor exists, log in, and then pick the fields from a drop-down menu that we want to be able to search it by. Picking any one of these fields, just adding it here, and now we've got all our search fields. So we can search by amount, by customer name, anything you need, you can set it up that way. Now that we've looked behind the covers and how we do that, let's go over to my email. And let's first take a look. This is the typical way. Now let's take, here's an invoice, a single invoice. It's been sent out, customized email, and it's a PDF. We could all see it. We want to check. You can see the size of it. It's 0.5 meg. That's one email, one two-page PDF. But now let's take a look at one of these. Here we've got just a simple link. The customer clicks on the link, and as it goes through all the permutations, there's the invoice. There's the invoice. It's all formatted. All the information has been pulled in. And in fact, we've added a page for terms and conditions. Now if we go and, because I'm a terrible typist, I'm going to cut and paste this. Now to our web version of Archivor, we'll search for documents. And I will identify again. Demo sites get a little crowded, but this is the mode we need to get to. And we can search by invoice number. Hit search. There it is. We can open it in Archivor. Same document. But we could also take a look and say, who's viewed it? Now, it was published. Somebody opened it within an email, and I viewed it from inside. We can take a look at any of the documents that we do, and we can understand, did anybody look at it? Now, one of my favorite use cases was a company that needed it for a recall notice. They were legally bound to get that information out, and just saying I emailed it was not sufficient. But being able to show that not only they email it, but on this particular day, date, and time, somebody opened it at this IP address, they were able to demonstrate that they were able to do that. Now let's take a look at the other one. Here we click, and this takes us right to Archivor. As you can see, we can search on when it was uploaded. Let's look at today and hit search. And these are all the documents that were uploaded. Now, if I'm a user and I want to review it, I could take a look at it and say, okay, that makes sense. Read through, check, make sure the numbers are right. It's good to go. Now, if I want, I could email it right from Archivor. Saves several steps. I don't have to put it as an attachment. Just hit email, and I can email it right from Archivor if need be. I can do any one of these. I can also, again, I can look at document history. It was opened. It was published when it got there. I can do any of these things. I can take a look at the properties. gives you a full view, who started out, that's me, where it went, an invoice number, an amount, so it's all there, all at your fingertips. So now I've just saved a ton of time in terms of keeping my email server clean, but I've also saved a lot of time and effort in checking whether people actually looked at it and also getting things out in a timely manner. We've talked about a lot of the things that we're doing that are standard Compleo, and certainly it's iSeries based, and we have been in the iSeries world for close to 20 years now, and we certainly will continue to support it, but we also realize the world has changed a little bit. So we're looking at a number of the ERP systems, in this case particularly SAP. We've been an SAP Silver partner for years and use traditional things like the BCXOM connector to get information from and format out of SAP. One of the innovations that we have, and this is a version 6 innovation that's really starting to catch fire, is the RFC Connector. You can go from data directly to document. You don't have to create a spool file. You can modify it on the fly. You can take it and you can make changes without having to do ABAP programming. And if you're an SAP person, you know the time-consuming nature and high resource-intensive nature of doing ABAP programming. Now, I just wanted to mention this to you folks. If any of you are SAP people, if any of you are thinking of moving to SAP, just a quick blurb. On the 22nd of this month, we're going to start a series of webinars specifically focused on what we're doing with SAP and supply chain documents. So we encourage you to look forward to those emails, and if you don't, if you want to get definitely on the list, we can put you on the list to make sure you get one if that's where you want to go. So we're starting with SAP. We are going to continue to grow, continue to change, and continue to support the iSeries. Final note, took kind of each one of the modules kind of almost a separate view. In my opinion, the biggest value that we can add as Compleo is the fact that they are modulars, but they're modulars that work together. We can use them, we can use them as building blocks to enhance a workflow, whether it's process automation, whether it's building a reviewed workflow that requires digital signatures, that requires multiple steps in the approval process. With our reviewer, we can do that. We can securely archive your documents. We can create the audit trails that you need. We can give you access through mobile devices, and we can optimize your ERP systems.